All right, Dennis. So thanks for coming on the podcast. I know I hunted you down after you guys won the or a finalist, or you won. I don't remember exactly.
We did win.
You did win, right, in that category.
We won our category.
Right,
Yes,
right. Through that was the Rothman Institute and NJBIA Business Small Family Businesses.
Family
of the
Business
year, right?
of the Year. Yep. Correct.
Very good, very good. I actually know Ron Shovlin very well. He was one of the finalists. So I hunted you down, a bit of a stalker, and I wanted to get you on the podcast to share because I like talking to family businesses and, multi-generational businesses. So maybe we go back. Let's go back to first of all, let's talk about your background.
Sure.
And what you grew up in and how you got into the business. Then we go back to when your grandfather started the business, we'll go through, I don't know. I don't even know how many family members you have in the business. So
we can go through that.
Yeah. So why don't we start with your background first?
Sure. So I grew up in Clifton, New Jersey, where our business is located. I always tell the story. A lot of my friends had sandboxes and Tonka toys, and my sandbox was our office, was our yard, our shop growing up.
Right.
So I grew up on excavators. I grew up
nice. Every little boy's dream, right?
Every boy's dream, right? Everybody I come across, and even my daughter now, who's 7, loves to on the weekends hop on the equipment. But the amount of requests we get for the young kids wanting to hop on an excavator and just to pretend they're all grown up is great. So
my son who's 20, he used to we would be walking back sites and be like, digger, daddy, digger. And then I remember we had moved into this old house which you don't have anymore. We had one of those it was like a backhoe. I guess it was a backhoe. It was like a little a smaller machine. You sit on it and it would dig out the roots of whatever. Every dad in the neighborhood came over, wanted to use the thing. I'm like, all right, you guys can go there. I didn't have to do any work. They ran the machine, and because I don't know, it's a male thing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, we get that request as much as any of our work, and we love it. We love to see the younger generations. Because I know growing up, a little bit about my background. In the early 80s, for 1980, 81, I was 4. And we just purchased a hydraulic excavator, one of the first ones that we've had around here.
Okay.
And for Caterpillar's dealer, fully incorporated in New Jersey, I just turned 5, and I was able to go down to their 25th anniversary at the time, and demonstrate how to use the hydraulic excavator. I got a picture in my office. My feet couldn't even touch the ground, but
right.
I came. It was a whole skit. I came out of the audience. Anybody here know how to run it? And I was able to dig.
Because it was like a demo type of thing for
it was
a group
a demo.
Of people?
It was their 25th anniversary party, but it was also a demo of the new equipment that was on the market. So when we purchased the equipment here, my grandfather taught me how to ride it. So the salesman saw me riding it, called down to the boss, and then they hooked me up.
For if a 4 or 5-year-old can run it, anybody can work this. This is great.
That's everybody believes that.
Right, exactly. That's funny.
But that's what I grew up. That's what I knew growing up, as far as that. And as I got older, and again, I was, through younger, high school age, and I was able to be actually before that, younger middle school age, I was able to wash our equipment, clean our shop, sweep the floors, do everything that a lot of people have done before, generations in a family business. As I got of age, I went on the jobs as labor, and just kind of learned everything, quote unquote, from the ground up with our business. And then from then on, I went to college at Montclair State University, which is very local. It's literally 5 minutes from our office, 5 minutes from our house. So that was the mid 90s when I went to school. At that point, technology, computers, everything was becoming more and more as I was learning in school.
Right.
I came back and started implementing it into our business, and moving it forward that way. Simple things. Where I still have memories when I was a kid. My grandmother, going through the daily journals, going through the books, and just I told the story the other day. The smell. We still have all files from all the years you go through. It kind of brings you back in time. And all that was transferring into technology, but we still have, you still remember when I was a kid going to see my grandmother, she's sitting there and going through payables, payrolls, invoices and everything. And we turned that, in my early 20s, we were turning that more into, the technology and everything. So, and then it became the estimating, then it became the scheduling, and then and more with the technology, where this business,
Was it even, I guess it
kind
was
of
all
go.
DOS based in that at the beginning, right? There wasn't Windows and stuff like that, was there?
There was the beginning. Windows 95 was the
So you're just, yeah.
was the beginning stages of that. So it was pretty. It was definitely pretty interesting. But I was learning it, again, and where it's gone to today is just kind of. I'm learning it from the younger generations. It's.
But a lot of
Um,
it's more plug and play and, more
oh yeah,
friendlier to the user than it was in those days,
you had to wait 20 minutes for your computer to turn
Right.
on
That's
back
another problem. Right.
back in the
Exactly.
day. Now, if it doesn't go right away, everybody's touch screens and everything, and we're we're talking on my
Oh
iPad
yeah.
right
This
now,
thing's
and
broken. I go,
yeah,
just give it a
right.
minute. Let it boot up,
Give it a minute. People don't understand. The joke with the AOL, the dial-up, that the younger
Yeah.
generation doesn't understand our struggle.
They don't even
To
know what
sit
that
there.
sound is, right?
No, I still have it ingrained in my head
Modems.
because, but even that, again, when people were using their personal emails for work, when people were just starting email to websites, to every where it is now, it's unbelievable. But again, where it started from, you look at the beginning. I kind of talk about, and we can get into like the three phases of our business, kind of as
Hmm.
we went through the generations. If my grandfather was around today, I could only be he would be. I don't even know if he came back, and took a look at the technology, if he was alive, to see what was going on.
Yeah.
The equipment in our industry, just the computers and the GPS and everything that's going on,
Yeah.
for the construction,
Almost runs itself.
a lot of it does. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of it, is made life easier, and a lot of it's made you, and more, we'll talk about the family business, but you're on 24/7 also.
Sure.
That's
Right.
the biggest
You're all
difference.
plugged in all the
When
time.
I was, when the phone rang, the phone used to ring at the office. The email would be sent to the office computer. Now
Right.
you have to be plugged in all the time, within reason, as far as to be there for your client base.
Sure. Even in law, like nobody expected years ago for your attorney to get back to you on a Saturday. I mean, the law firm's closed. Now they send you an email. They're like, "Is hello? Something wrong? How
Right.
come you?" And it's sometimes for a small attorney, it's daunting. They speed at which it comes in, and you got to keep up with it going out, and it's crazy. I've gotten more used to it, but some of my colleagues who are older, they never even wanted to get email. They want to control the flow coming in so they can control the flow coming out, and it's
Yeah.
expectation, like you said. You know.
It it's in there. I mean, we still have, I'd say, over 95% of our clients are receiving, you know, email estimates, quotes, paperwork back and forth. There's still the 5% that wants the hard copy. They'll come pick it
Right.
up. We'll mail it out. It's just,
Well, maybe
you know,
COVID killed that, huh?
it did a little bit. Yeah, everything has changed, from the permit processing. A lot of things I think have become more effective and more efficient throughout
Yeah.
since March and April. I know some of the permitting has been easier as
Yeah. It
far
forced
as
them to get caught up online and do stuff like that,
it.
right?
It does.
Yeah.
It forces a lot. It forced us to take a look at everything, and again, advance in certain things, technology. What could we be doing better? Whether it's paperless,
Right.
and on and on. You take a look at your systems all the time. That's what I enjoy the most. Saying, okay, here's the situation. How can we improve it? How can we make it more effective?
Right. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's jump back then. Let's start where, how your grandfather, where did he come from?
Yeah.
He come from another country, he immigrates here, he started the business. Maybe you could tell the story about your family business.
Sure. So again, my grandfather's background, shortly after World War II, so in 1946,
Okay.
he started our business, and he started with a pickup truck and a hand shovel. He started his own excavating company. And it was just something that the area around where we were in Clifton was a very much farmland, very open space. Not like, there's,
Right.
everybody jokes around. There's no land in New Jersey anymore unless we're doing a demolition for
Right.
another development.
It's true.
So it was, if we look at the pictures back from the early 40s, and as we're looking at a lot of, it was just even where we are right now, and it's very populated. It was farmland, and a lot of that, and that's when it develops. And so my grandfather started his excavating. A lot of it was different back in the game. A lot of it was land clearing,
Right.
because again, that's
Right.
a foreign deal these days. Like I said, this is
Trees and
not
stuff like that. It was like woods.
trees, farmland, woods, and that's the development. Actually, where our business started, which was right down the road from where we are now on Route 46, became a developed area around it. More and more houses were coming up. So we moved to, a commercial site right up the road, just because back in the day, again, it was all farmland, and again, it just looking back at the black and white photos back then, it's a pretty interesting just to see where everything came from.
Right.
So he developed it again. So as the equipment started to become, more and more, again, bulldozers
Yeah,
and,
because you couldn't remove a tree by hand. I mean, that's,
they did though, probably
I'm
back in the day.
sure
Some
they
of these
did.
guys, I
Right. You
can
had to do
only
it some
imagine.
hook up an
Yeah,
ox to the tree and pull it over.
I,
I don't know.
I,
How would you do
I,
before you had machines?
I can only imagine some of the stories that, some of them I know and some of them, but again, so more and more they became, the excavating, and then they went, as stuff was being built, he turned in, even into demolitions, do some of the older barns and houses. They would, demolish them and work alongside builders, developers, and continue to build the track properties, which are known today. And I think we've probably been taking down those houses through the years.
Right.
So he built that up, 40s, 50s, 60s. Then in the late 70s and 80s, which I consider like the second phase of our business, when my father was more and more involved and eventually taken over as the president of the company, it became the environmental issues in New Jersey.
Right.
So as far as
70s when it all started
yeah,
happening, right?
right. So yeah. So again, so the 70s and in the 80s with all the regulations, we started to do a lot of work. Um, we started to do a lot of work for environmental companies. We started doing a lot of tank removals for gas
Right.
stations
Cleanups and
and,
stuff. Yeah.
cleanups and all that stuff.
Soil
So
too. You would take the soil out, do the whole thing.
we would excavate, yeah, we would excavate the soils and do a lot of that. So again, when the environmental issues were, getting in, we got heavy into the environmental and still doing the excavation. Again, the site developments wasn't as much, site clearing as it was demolitions for the builders, and then
Right.
moving forward. So again, and then the next stage was the excavation of the environmental sites, tank removals, and moving forward. We're still, to this day, we work with a lot of environmental consultants, engineers, soil
So you're working
companies.
with LSRPs. I mean, that whole
We
thing's
are,
changed from NFA
yes,
letters to remedial
yeah,
action outcomes. And
yep,
I still
correct,
deal with attorneys on deals, and they send me a thing, put it in there. They need an NFA. And I
yeah,
was like, you don't get NFAs anymore. Now you got to hire
right.
a
The
licensed site
LSRP, yeah,
remediation professional. Yeah. And they
yeah,
don't
and
understand.
yeah, that's been a great source of work for us, again, through the years, because again, for everything, and as well as, for commercial properties, a lot of times we'll come in pretty early too. We'll be in as far as just for test pits, just to come in to dig a couple test pits, see what's on the property. It's not necessarily over contamination. Sometimes what can you build on? Is it compactable fill? Where's the water?
Right.
On and on and on. So a lot of times we're coming in pretty early on the commercial
Yeah. So if
projects.
you're in bedrock, you might be like, listen, you got to blast this out or you can't build here. Right. I mean,
Well,
you don't want to find that out when
again,
you're halfway through.
you don't want to file that, right? So a lot of times we're in on the early stages. A lot of times they know it's a contaminated, whether it's a warehouse that's being turned over for commercial use, or and or resident, depending on what it is. We're in to excavate all the
So you're doing
material out.
borings and stuff as a testing company, or you don't do that?
We don't do the borings. We're
Okay.
doing a straight excavation. We're doing the digs on that. So again,
Right.
they're going to hire. We'll be out there for a day or two, and they're just going to point to different areas, tell us how deep to dig. We're the hired equipment on that.
Got it. Okay. So really you guys have been in excavating and foundations and all that stuff from the
from
beginning.
day
You
from
were
day
always
one.
like let's call it the sill plate down is kind of what you guys
Mhm.
do, right? Anything below,
Yeah.
if there is a sill plate in commercial buildings, I have
Yeah.
no idea, but,
Yeah.
and you clear the site and get it ready and do the foundations, right? I mean, you guys are putting in the footings and the foundations and building the cement walls and the brick,
We're not building this
on.
event. We're doing the excavation work. So we're working alongside the builders and masons that are doing all that work.
Yeah. So
As far as
you might excavate it and then they'll start building,
and we'll
let's say, the foundation.
yep. And then
You've
we'll come
just
back and
dug the hole. They
backfill
don't
it.
dig the holes,
They
basically.
don't. Correct. Right. We're
Okay.
going to do that. So
Interesting.
everything's a specialty on that. Now there's some builders and developers that have their own equipment. There's some excavators do that.
Yeah. Maybe for
Our
smaller jobs, right?
Yeah, our specialty is the excavation work. Our specialty is the demolition. We stay within our and that's forced us for years to have a great client base. Where the builders, again, instead of them it really works well because instead of builders having an excavator and or buying a piece of equipment, we just we can go from job to job also, as far as different sizes, as well as different sizes, different lots, different everything.
Yeah.
It's what we do. So we're able to do, we're usually the first ones on the site, whether it starts with a demolition, whether it starts with the excavation of the foundation, whether it starts with the drainage. We do a lot of drainage work with properties. Again, you have the drainage issues. Everybody thinks that they get water from the basement. Well, it's getting there somehow. So a
Right.
lot of
Sure.
times it doesn't come from the basement. It's coming from poorly pitched properties a lot of times. So anything with the earthwork is where we're is where we make our mark on that.
So sometimes you got to deal with like wetlands issues. I've had properties where they weren't wet, and then because of the drainage, the water develops, and then things start growing. And next thing you know, there's like a environmental like community there in the states, like, oh, you can't kill the tsetse fly.
And that's it. Yeah, we stay away from that. As far as that is again. So again, where you can build, where you can't build. Going back to that's a lot of times we'll come out to do the test bits and stuff because they say this part of the property might border up against certain areas. So again, we'll see how far it goes into the property where they're trying to do excavation and or building.
You don't do surveying. You work with surveyors.
Correct.
Yeah. So do you know how, I don't know, you said your grandfather's passed away, how he built a business from a small business owner's perspective? He had a shovel and a truck. So who do you go to?
Back in the day, it was the builders. It was guys that wanted to build houses, developers, that's who we worked for. Those guys were, again, I think that's where, if you truly, and again, just stories from my father and even when my grandfather's alive, I think that's when everybody was more, it's a mix right now. That's when everybody was more of a specialty. My grandfather dug the hole, the mason put that in, the builder, the framers and everything. And I think everybody had a trade that they were very good at, and they kind of, my grandfather never wanted, never became a developer. He never,
He's not a carpenter. He's not building.
He's not a carpenter.
Right.
I'm sure he could.
Framing.
And I'm
sure
he could.
Right.
He was very handy. And I remember as a kid but everybody stuck to what they knew. And I think that was definitely an interesting time. You see a lot of times now you have the all-in-one companies, and we try and stick within our realm. We try and, what are we good at? We're a land improvement contractor. And for us, that means excavation and demolition. Probably we're going to improve the land. We want to be a subcontractor for environmental consultants, for builders, for developers that hire us and say, here's the plans. I need you to excavate here. Here's the building. I need this now. Here's the drainage. I need you to improve this. We stay within that. And that's been very good to us for a lot, for the years, because it expands our client base.
Right.
Again,
you don't compete with them.
We don't compete with them. We work with them, and that's the best thing. The term I've always used, and my father here, we partner with them. We say we're subcontractors, but we're all partners. We're all working together. And it's been very good for us as far as, the partners we've had through all the years.
So now are you doing small jobs and big jobs? I mean, you got different divisions, like you deal with small home builders and large projects?
Correct. Small home builders, again.
Because they don't have their own equipment. They got to get somebody to dig it anyway, right?
Again, being a small business like ourselves, it's great. A builder that calls us up and says, I want to knock this house down and I'm going to build it and clean, prepare the land. That's perfect for us. Even on the tank removal end, we do a lot of residential tank removals,
right?
Not only the commercial. We've been doing that for years. I laugh. I said probably some of the tanks my grandfather installed through the years.
He did
40, 50, whenever the tanks are going on. We're probably removing them now because all the as the real estate market moves, so do the tanks coming out of the ground. Because, as you're well aware of, you're not selling the house with the tank in the ground.
No, even the abandoned ones, people want them removed. So
we want to, there are a lot of them too that even they were properly done. With the sand, they still want them out. Because, if you're buying a house, it's the unknown. Everybody, there's no crystal ball as far as what, the contamination, how it went through the years. So,
right. And then when you go to sell the house, then they bring up the issue again. No, it was decommissioned. It's filled with sand. Well, we don't know what's underneath it. So,
well, one of the things with the technology or just even the paperwork, we have people all the time, when we pull out the tank, we keep the originals here. We have it scanned. We have it in boxes. We have everything. We tell everybody, keep it in a safe at your house.
Yeah.
When you go to sell the property, 20, 30 years ago, people are calling saying, hey, I remember you did the tank removal. And
And you
we
still
have the
have that
paper.
stuff?
We still have the stuff. Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it makes it easier now with scanning, but we still have.
Yeah.
If you can get us within the year and a month, we'll have the
You could find
paperwork
it.
as far as
I have
because
problems like that
we
all the
know.
time on closings. They can't,
Yeah,
they're
can't
like,
find
well,
the paperwork.
the tank was removed, or the tank, we got to find papers on it. And it's problematic.
Because a lot of times the towns purge their records through the years. We've as far as the jobs that we've done, we have all the records here. Even the environmental consultants are calling and saying, hey, do you remember you did this job in July 2003? No problem,
Could look it
we'll
up.
provide that.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's towns I know that've had floods and fires, and they're like, well, listen, anything before
Yeah,
1987, we lost,
right. Oh no, we come across that a lot, so we kind of pride ourselves in being able to help because yeah, just a record keeping. It's important, again, it's important for us, but we also trying to educate, the clients, especially the homeowners. Listen, take this, put it with, your closing documents, and put, because, or put it in your safe, because when you go to sell the house, the first thing they're going to ask for, you know, is did you have the tank removed and was it done properly?
Yeah,
Sign off from the
there's no
town.
question about it. So you're mostly in the cloud now. All of your stuff's been
We have it.
scanned in, or not the old stuff?
Not the old stuff as far as the last X amount of years, but we still have it, secured up that way. Again, we have it like everybody else. We have it in the cloud. We have it backed up. You try and take as many precautions as you possibly can.
Yeah, some of these
Yeah,
older
that's a
companies, they
whole.
could get rid of a lot of file cabinets if
Yeah,
able to
it's
scan it in.
true. And we still keep the hard copies on a lot of on that work as far as and anything with the environmental end, we have a hard copy as well because it's the town signature on it. It's the actual permit. It's important as again, just looking back, you try selling the house without having the original paperwork, it could hold it up.
Sure,
We
big
talk to
time.
the real, yeah, we work for, a lot of referrals we get are from real estate agents because again, they know and when it's done, it's going to be done right. They know the paperwork is going to be done right. They know when we leave the job. I mean, we're dealing with heavy equipment, backhoes, excavators. When we're done, we pride ourselves in leaving as if we weren't there.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
so
try and
we,
encourage home buyers, don't accept get the sellers to remove the tank, because it could be an expense for you later on. That could
Mhm.
be, 20, 30, 40, $50,000
Mhm.
because you got to remove soil or whatever. I've had tons of surprises with properties,
Mhm. Yeah, we've seen in houses that it was cheaper to knock the house down and clean up the remediation
Really.
yeah, than it would be to go underneath and pin the house. And the issue becomes is, and that's the same thing. People call us all the time with that question. I'm looking to buying a house. I have paperwork. What's your recommendation? And we say, and this has nothing to us pulling the tank. We say, we recommend, again, like you said, the seller. An attorney's not going to let you buy the house, with the tank in the ground because you don't know. The testing could be around. And
Right.
what happens if it went right under? What happens if it went into the water underneath?
Yeah. Yeah. And people don't do tank sweeps. I'm like, you got to do tank sweep. You got to do,
Yeah,
ground
yeah,
penetrating radar. Is that what they use for, they find these
yeah. They do.
anomalies? Well, we don't know what it is, but there's something underneath there.
That's the other thing that we've been for the anomalies. That's where we come in. Also, we'll do the exploratory
To
dig.
just do a little dig
Just
and
to
see what's down
confirm.
there.
Yeah, you'd be amazed. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it is the tank. At that point, you're stop. You do the dig, you stop, and now you're going for the permit and doing it the right way. But I can't stress enough the paperwork is so important, and everything you do and do it, dotting your I's and crossing your T's. You think about it like a lot of our time, we're digging holes, we're doing this, but the paperwork behind the job is very important.
Yeah. No, dealing with the DEP is not fun. That's for sure. I had a house I think it was out by you guys, like in Little Falls. The
Hmm.
guy had died and the daughters were taking the house, but then there was a second wife and they were arguing about all kinds of stuff. At the end of the day, and this wasn't a big house, that was a couple $100,000. At the end of the day, it turned out there was a tank underneath the driveway. The guy had never done a tank sweep 20 years before he bought the property for cash.
Right.
And it had been leaking. There's
Hmm.
oil in there, even though they weren't using it. It was abandoned. And
Right.
it cost them more to clean up the property than they were arguing about at the end of the day.
I believe it.
It was crazy. So yeah, I don't know what you do with that stuff. So what's some of the bigger projects that you've worked on over the years? You know, how big do they get in New Jersey?
I mean, they vary. I mean, so the projects we've done is some larger demolition projects that combine with the environmental cleanups. That would be our
You'll
the
take down a
large.
whole building, like what are they?
We'll take down a warehouse. We've taken down a warehouse. We've taken down a recycling center before. We've taken down a transfer station before, and again, multiple houses, developments, fires. We've done it all as far as that. So that's been that. Probably larger development project. We've done some pretty big residential for builders. We've done some pretty large residential projects. Sometimes they're one-offs. I mean, whether it's an Upper Montclair,
like a big building or something.
Yeah, or a big residential house that's the size of a building.
Sure. Yeah.
We've done a couple in Upper Montclair. We've done some in Chatham where it requires, where they're expanding the backyards a lot of times. Where we come into play too. Is somebody purchases, the footprint. Again, within the survey, there's a lot of expandable area in the yard. So, you're talking about putting up retaining walls, you're talking about, boulder walls, landscape, expanding that, changing the contours for the grade, for drainage and everything. So it's definitely, you
do all the masonry work, like if somebody needs a retaining wall and stuff, or you just?
No, we also, so the one thing we do is that, like, again, if the property borders into, say, like a forest, we'll do the rock boulder walls.
Oh, you will? Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that. So
if you have a stream, like an easement with a stream guy, you got to do
before. Yeah, if it border, and sometimes they're beautiful because you take the big boulders and it just kind of goes right into the landscape.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. But the retaining walls and all that, again, we're working with the builders that do that. So we'll get that all ready and help them lift that in there and set it and everything.
All right. So is your dad still the president?
He is still the president. He's still here, Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about, since this is a family business episode, so to speak, let's talk about the business and who's in the business and the family and how it's structured and who runs what.
Great. So the one thing I always joke about with the family business, I said that when people talk to me, I said the best thing about family business, or the best advice I could give, is everybody's in their own lane. As far as everybody's handling their own area. So my father, he's president, and he handles our day-to-day operations. He handles our scheduling. He handles basically everything that goes on day to day. With our employees, he's been doing that for many years, and he loves that. He loves everything about the business, as far as going out there, checking on the sites, with our guys and everything. And it's just such a great resource for me to continue to have him here as long as he wants to be here. I'm one of those. I'm a son that wants him to stay here as long as he wants to stay here, and I'm enjoying every day I get to come in here and share ideas for that. As far as other families members in there, my father's brother has been here for. My uncle. Yep, he's been an operator here for years. My uncle from my mother's side, so I have another uncle in the business. My younger brother's in the business, and they're out in the field all day running projects.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're out handling the job sites, handling the demolitions, handling all the the site prep and everything with our employees there. And then I handle everything. The joke is my title is whatever rolls off my father's plate, which has been great for me. So it's been the technology end, it's been the marketing end, it's been growing our business. It's, it's been, outside of the day-to-day operations, which I really enjoy that aspect of it. How can taking something and looking and saying, okay, how can we do this more effectively and more efficiently? Meeting with the environmental consultants, meeting with engineers, meeting with builders, developers, working on.
But you're doing it mostly in-house. You're not going out to the sites, or you do both?
For me, or I'll do everything. Yeah, I'll go out to the site. Like I said, I'll go out to sites, but a lot of times I'm going out on the advanced sites. I'm going out and meeting with,
more complicated jobs.
not even the more complicated jobs, just the more, just meeting with, meeting with everybody to work on the partnership. And, again, whether it's making sure, that, everybody's good with what we've been doing. And that's the best thing for me. I mean, I'm working with builders and developers where my grandfather worked with their sons and on and on, or their fathers on and on. So
Right.
you have some pretty good stories through the years, and you get out there and you start trading some stuff. I remember when your grandfather, I remember your father, and and this and that. I said, well, my father's still in the office next door
He's
here.
not dead. He's over behind the door.
He's right here. And I think that's what I enjoy hearing that. And it's a good thing when you're hearing that, because you're still working. I take pride. We're nearly 75 years at the turn of the new year, we'll be 75 years in business, but hearing the stories from the past of remembering our employees, remembering my grandfather, or jobs we've did, or, hey, I remember you did something for us 25 years ago. That's the best compliment you can get in business, or somebody just calling, for recommendations. Hey, listen, you guys did a great job for us. Do you know somebody who does this? You guys have been around for a while. You did a great job. And, for us, it's the trust factor, and I think it's important as you're building the partnerships through the years. It's the trust, when people call, a lot of times, for to order equipment, they're ordering, hey, send me Lenny, send me Ryan, send me
Right. They
Drew.
want the same guy.
They want the same guy. It's not always, they figure we know which equipment is, but that's a relationship.
Yeah.
They have a relationship, and they all do a great job, but a lot of times it's a comfort level on the field. Different project managers like working with different guys, so they have that comfort level, and it's exciting because they're like, you guys don't know what equipment to send out there, but I want this guy, and it's
right.
We get that. And within the family too, the thing that I take a lot of pride in is the employees that have been here that are not related. On average, I've been here almost 17, 18 years on average. We have, I mean, some of the employees that are here, I grew up learning how to operate the equipment, that they're still here. And that says something well before me. That's the environment my grandfather set up. That's the environment that my father took to that next level.
Sure.
We have one rule with our employees when they go to a job. If it is not safe, we're dealing with heavy construction, we're dealing with excavators, we're dealing with trucks, we're dealing with tanks. At any point, if you do not feel safe, you put the equipment back on the trailer and you come back to our yard, no questions asked. That is the number. It doesn't matter. And again, you rarely get these situations.
Right.
You get guys that try and push the issue, an unsafe environment. There is no questions asked. You come right back and we will handle it. You never we want everybody going home at the end of the day.
Right,
with
of
the same
course.
Fingers and toes and everything that they left with.
I'm sure there's people that work for companies that feel pressure to get jobs done, and they take risks that they shouldn't take.
And that comes from the management, because they're worried about the bottom line. To me, it's a people driven, but no matter what you are,
without the people, the machines don't operate, right? So not yet.
Operate.
Right.
And our guys know that if they're ever in an unsafe situation, they bring it back, and that's been something that's been, followed for years. So I'm, you can ask, like, that's the best thing, as far as any of the safety equipment, everything is at their full disposal, because that's how we look at everybody. I mean, they've been here. These guys everybody here is family. So it's kind of grown that way through the years. And that's, like I said, as far as everybody being in the business with the family, the thing that I'm most prideful for, the employees, the tenure that we have here. And I think,
well, it says a lot for your business and how you treat people, for sure. Go to a company, you got your average employees there 3 to 5 years. It doesn't say much for a business that's 75 years old,
Right. And that's part of what we are so prideful for, that, again, and I think it reflects back. Our guys know that, they feel the same way. So it's a give and take. And the other thing too is they have ownership on, one of the things that stands out, that I believe, they have ownership on each job. We can't get the, and by we, mostly my father can't be on every job site. I can't be on every job site. They make the decisions on those jobs based on the situation where they have ownership. It's when they're on the job site, it's their job. If they don't feel safe, they do it. If they feel there's a better way to do it, they do it. So I think having ownership also is very important, because you get a lot of times you see through the years, or God, there's only one way to do it, or this is how I do it. Well, every job is different, especially what we come across. You know, no two sites are the same, no two demolitions are the same, no two tank removals are the same. So when they're there, they're doing what they believe is, treat it like it's your own property. Yeah, I think that's important too. How would you when you leave the job, right? Again, we're dealing with excavation, so there's mud, there's mess,
Of
there's gas.
course.
At the end of the day, though, we take the extra 5-10 minutes. It's swept. It's clean. When we
Sure.
leave, our whole thing is, we've had people come home before and this said, I thought you were coming to do my tank removal today, and that's probably the best compliment you could get. Be like, yeah, see the little patch on your
Right, it's
lawn?
all done.
It's gone. Here's the inspection, everything. That's the best. And they
Right.
like, what do they expect? People expect, you know, to be a mess. But that's one of the things we talk about. Leave it like you would your own house. Every project, you treat it like it's your own. How would you want it left? And I know
Right.
when I have contractors in my house, I think I'm not picky about the work as much as how do they leave the job at the end?
Right.
Did they put tar down? Did they clean it? Am I out there all weekend cleaning the driveway and picking up stuff? Because that's what I'm looking for. The work is the work. What do you the little extra is the difference to me.
Yeah. There's a
That
project
little,
going on in Garwood near me. There's some big residential construction project, Vermilla or something. I forget the builder's name. But anyway, I see them hosing down the trucks and the equipment as it's coming off the site, because the town probably doesn't want the street to be full of mud.
a lot of times that's a requirement. Yes.
Yeah, probably was. I
but
figured it
still,
was a town requirement.
a
Yeah, because
lot of
it'll
times
pour out onto the main road and then everybody will be driving
of
through
course, throw it. Yeah. So it's the little things that make a huge difference.
it. Right, right.
And I think there's a couple um, how do you stand out? And to me, it's doing the little things right. It's not, it's not the size of the projects. It's
Right.
not, because if I do, you asked me a question about like the smaller home, the smaller builders before.
Yeah.
I don't look at it that. I look at that builder's going to build 10, 20, 30, 100 houses in his
Right.
career, whatever
And
it might
refer you
be.
to 4 of his best
Right. Well,
friends.
100 house, if somebody said 100 house project, that's a pretty large development. And 4 of his friends who are development, that's how we look at it. Everybody
Right.
wants the 100 house development at once. We've, kind of through the years, we've looked at the little, again, not little. We looked at every project, we look at the same, but those are the ones that build for us. Again, partners, we work, we worked for a developer that had 3 partners. All 3 partners broke off this was probably back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
All 3 partners broke up, became their own builders. We worked for them for,
They all work with you.
all work with them. Yeah. Because they're all doing different projects. And it was just, they all decided to go on their own, but they all hired us to do their excavation and the demolition work. And we worked for them for years.
Right.
And again, that's where we want to be, and if all 3 of
Sure.
us, all 3 of them, we came and they were bidding the same project, they'd all get the same number, from us. They know it,
Right.
and whoever gets it, we'll do the dig for.
Right.
But again, that's what for us, we never strove, to be the biggest contractor out there, but when we were done with it, we wanted to be the best, and that's important to us. When we were done, with a site or working, or things change within a job too. And a lot of times the scope changes in the middle of jobs. You got to come together, and say, okay, this change, we hit rock, we hit what, how are we going to do this? And you come together. And I'll circle that back to the family question. A lot of times, we'll get together at the end of the day. If we're looking at purchasing a new piece of equipment, it's not just the cost of the equipment. It's, it's who's going to be operating it, what type of jobs is going to fit on, do we need it at this point? And we bring everybody in, we have the discussion, and I think that's, there's a lot of things, or, we want everybody to bring ideas to us. That's kind of
Right. Of course.
Hey, let's talk it out. Let's figure, does this purchase make sense right now? Is this type of project something we can handle? Is it too big for us? Again, a lot of times the projects look great.
Yeah, it ties up
but
all of your equipment, right? And then you can't do anything else.
Equipment financing, right, and all the above. So we'll have this, and if it's we're going to be honest. Listen, we appreciate the opportunity to bid this, but it's not in our, this is who we recommend would be a great fit for you guys. And the contractors that are larger at us send stuff back our way. So
Sure.
it goes, if I'm going to send it up, sometimes it comes back or side, and it moves. And I think, again, it's partnerships, it's relationships. I'm fortunate. I'm on the board of directors with the land improvement contractors, and there's so many good contractors out there that want to work together, and bounce ideas off each other. It becomes friendships, partnerships within your own business. A lot of times, it's you might be bidding for the same jobs against your
But you
friends.
can be friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, it's just a job, and share ideas because it comes back,
of
and
course.
and that's the one thing, like I said, it definitely does. So, you know, with the family aspect of it, I think that the number one thing, just kind of circling back on
Yeah,
that
because I got some
is
questions for you. Yeah.
yeah, just kind of everybody here kind of stays in their lane for what they're doing, but we all discuss everything. So,
Well, that leads that we didn't even set this up, but that's what I was going to get to, and then you got to it, which is good. I think one of the problems, and that's what a lot of these family business institutes are about, right? And soundboards and things like that, about the corporate governance on the family level, right? Because sometimes you get, you and your cousin, you're not getting along and you disagree. So how do you guys deal with that in terms of running your business from from a reporting and a management structure? I mean, ultimately, somebody's got to have the final vote, even though everyone's got say. So how do you guys deal with those dynamics when there's different opinions in the room? And, when it's family, it's a little different than when it's not family. You're not going to fire your
yeah.
brother necessarily,
No,
right?
no, everybody's still here,
And
so that's a good
businesses fall
sign.
apart because of that sometimes,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you guys have
I
made it
could
a
say
long way.
I think two things really helped that. Number one, my father's position, there's, as far as he is he's the final decision maker, but he listens to everybody. If it's coming from me, if it's a technology suggestion, if it's marketing, if it's growth, he's gonna take what the research that I'm going to bring to him, listen to it,
And then he
and
has to make a decision, right?
trust. Yeah, but again, the decision is he's going to say, if you think it's right, we're going to go with it. If my brother or uncles bring him something from a job site, we need X, Y, or Z on a job, he's going to say, if you think it's right, we're going to go with it. I think, and I don't want to say remove the ego, but a lot of times it's, it is removing the ego and saying, listen, if there's a better way of doing it out there, we're going to do it. And then again, that's around table, quote unquote, this
Well, do you
informal
guys have a
discussions
board
we
of
have.
directors where your dad's the president and you're the vice, and people sit around, you have
Yeah,
quarterly
I mean,
meetings or stuff like that?
I
I mean,
yeah, I've been on advisory boards for a bit of different things. It's more of our board of directors is when we get back at the end of the day and we sit around and as something comes up, we discuss it.
so you
Or
don't have
yeah,
like formal quarterly meetings. You have some outside advisors. You sit down and you deal with any of the corporate issues. You guys don't do that? You don't
I mean,
have
I have
to.
a
I'm just wondering if you
no,
do.
no. It's it's worked for us doing it this way. I laugh. I said we have a formal meeting every 365 days a year.
Right.
And you know, it is work for us. It doesn't work for everybody. And I know I've talked to a lot of people. I've been on advisory boards, where we shared ideas about our businesses. But I think for us, it works with everybody kind of having their own realm. Here it is really, it's been very, I all day long. I'm on the phone with family business owners. I'm on the phone with other business owners, entrepreneurs, getting ideas.
Right.
Hey, did you come across this? And then I'd go back and, my father and I or brother, we would talk about the situation. So I almost feel like we do that informally on almost a daily
Right.
basis,
You ever had any
and
situations where one family member wasn't really pulling his weight and another cousin's complaining or any of that type of stuff you've had to deal with, or
knock,
not really?
knock on wood. It's,
Okay, good.
and then, going, I'm trying to find some more wood around here,
Yeah.
but it's it works. And I think you have to have the strong leadership at the top. And that's why, just having open, honest communication all the time too. And I can't stress enough that I think if everybody is in their own area, it really helps. The ownership, I know, again, whether it's technology based or growth based or whatever it is, I am going to do my part to research that. And whether it's field operations, the equipment and how we handle jobs comes from my brother and my uncles. They're researching, they're out on the field though, they're in the lab every day. So we're going to listen to what they're saying, and as far as my
Sure.
father from the true operations aspect and the running of the business, I'm going to, we're all in it together,
Right.
you know, and, and like I said, the value that everybody brings, if we're all trying to do the scheduling every day, if we're all trying to,
Well, obviously you can't run a business that way,
you
right?
can't, no, but there are sometimes that's what I've seen when I talk to a lot of family run businesses, where they have different, one wants to grow it at 5%, one wants to grow it at 15%. The problem is when you're on different pages, you're going to
Right.
get different results, or people are, so open, honest communication. And the other thing too, we try and do a great job is when we're not in the office, just, the hardest thing for family businesses is when you're not in the office to be the family,
Right. To put it down and to,
you got to put it down for a little while, and you got to
yeah.
be able to enjoy a ball game, or, and you got to be able to, nothing gives me more satisfaction, with see my father with his granddaughter,
Right.
and it's, it's family again. Too many people, the one thing we never do is let business and family, kind of combine. You have to keep that separate. We don't have those. Back in the day, we didn't have the dinner. It's with you every day. It's with you every
Right.
second. You try and separate that at the dinner table, at family gatherings and everything.
Of course. Now, is
I
your dad
understand.
older than your uncle? Is that how he ended
Right.
up becoming the president? He came in the business
No,
sooner?
he's younger than my uncle.
Okay. So
He's
how did
right
that
up.
happen?
So what happened on that one? And my father was right from high school. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. He loved the business. He went right into the business. My father's oldest brother actually left and became a plastic surgeon.
Oh,
He
okay.
went completely outside, and
Right.
he passed away. But he was,
Okay,
he
sorry.
worked, and the middle brother who's with us right now enjoys being out on the field. He doesn't, he loves his family. He's out there. He just wants, what I mean? He does such a great job, and has always had, since been here. And he went his own way for a couple of years and came back. When he came back into the business, he just wanted to be out on the field. Not everybody, we joke
And your
about
dad's
it.
been there from day one, pretty much, right?
From day one of his life. Yeah. So he
Right, of
grew
his
up as
life.
a kid. He knew what he wanted to do probably well before high school, that he wanted to
Right.
run this business and continue through that. And he's always, when I say it's his life, it's not his life because he has so much outside of this, but he's put his entire life into this business, into
Sure.
where it is today.
Now, how old's your dad now?
He is 65.
Oh, okay. So he's not
Yeah.
that old, but
He's not
I'm,
that old.
so have you guys put, to tell me it's private, but have you guys put in contingency plans? Like if something happened to your dad and he couldn't work anymore, who takes over? What's the, the order, what happened? Because
Yeah.
look, business is
No,
going to chaos, right? The leading
we've
guy,
had
something happens, right?
well, that's one, yes, to answer your question, yes, there's always,
Because it gets hairy. That's one thing that holds it up, right?
It does. And
Nobody
it gets
can agree.
hairy. And correct. And I think that's one thing, every business needs to have the succession plan, because you never know what happens. Two of us are driving in a car.
Yeah.
You hate to say it, but you never know. So yes, we've done that. Everything. We've done a succession planning. We've done that. We met, again with family and everything. So it's very important, especially if you want the legacy to continue. Because you hear about the numbers, like everybody I don't think about it, but they talk about the percentages, right? Of from first generation to second generation.
Yeah, they're very high failure rates.
And
Yeah.
I've heard anywhere between like 9 and 13, 14% to get to the third generation. I've never thought about that, and maybe that's a good thing, because it has worked for us. But we've had the plan in the whole time.
Yeah, well, a lot of it has to do with what you just said. There's lack of planning. It doesn't happen by itself. Maybe to a certain extent it happened with your dad because he came in from the beginning and you did too. But without the planning, life doesn't happen in a straight line, right? There's always something that happens that you don't anticipate, good, bad, or indifferent. So if you don't plan on it and do it systematically and have things in place, that's why only like 15% of them make it to the third generation, because they disagree. Somebody dies sooner than you expect. The kids aren't ready, that whatever it is, and you don't have your dad around to ask the question to. And that's a lot of it,
I'll take it one step further. I also think the conversation needs to be had with the generation underneath you if they want to continue in the family business, because a lot of times, again, this is part of the talking to everybody all the time, but a lot of times, right, does the third or fourth generation even want to continue into the business? That
Right.
conversation needs to be had, because if something happens to the second generation when it's going to a third generation member that doesn't want it, if you don't have that conversation down, again, my daughter's 7.5 right now,
Right.
you know,
No, but if something happened sooner when she's too young, she's not in the position
right.
to take over the
She's
business.
not in the position, right? So there has to be a plan underneath that. Or when, again, the conversation I'm telling you right now, she can do whatever she wants, like in this world. If she wanted to come into the family business, more power. If she wants to go completely opposite, I want her to do whatever I was afforded. None of us here. And I think maybe that answers another question. None of us here were ever told we had to
Right.
be in the family business, or this is what you're going to do. We're here because we want it. So I do think that helps also
It
with
does.
the family aspect and that. I left for full-time position for a couple of years. I was a full-time college football coach for a couple of years.
I saw that in your resume. That's cool.
Yeah, and it was great. And I remember having a conversation with my father. I was always doing part-time high school work. I was a head coach. I got an opportunity to be a full-time coach at a Hofstra University. And he's like, go, you're young. Now's the time. Go see what you want to do.
Right.
I was out there for 2.5 years. I had 2.5. It was a great experience and everything. But at the end of the day, after I left, this is where I wanted to be. I enjoyed it. And I think it was a great experience. It's another
You develop
part of it,
leadership skills and teamwork and things like that.
And you're working for somebody else. I've been coaching for over 20 years. That means I've had probably 14, 15 different bosses and
Right.
outside of the family. And I advise everybody, whether you're in a family business or if you're in a family business, go out and get on a board and have somebody else be your, go get other ideas, get outside. I've learned more that I brought back to my business in my coaching background of how to deal with people, how to work with people, how to work for people. And I could bring an outside perspective back to our family business. A lot of time family business, and it works for a lot of people, they just stay in it and that's what they do. But you can go and get outside opportunities. It's outstanding as far as me. And I still to this day have learned as much in our business as I have outside it. And I think it works on both aspects.
Sure. Well, some people don't do that. I mean, that's probably a large reason why they don't make it to the second, third generation, because they don't take the time to consult with outside advisors, to get involved in other business, to get, bounce ideas off of other people, to get a different perspective. I worked with I don't work with them anymore. It was an ex-partner's business, but it was basically the father's business kind of, and then the sons took it over. But what happened was over time, because they did no planning, they had no really structure. One brother was the president. The other brother was kind of the vice president, but he wouldn't do anything. They split the money. It was 50-50. And so he would give a project to his brother, and he would only half finish it, or he would go off and so he came to me like, well, what are we going to do? I'm the president. I need to run this company. What? You don't even have any right. Is your brother going to sign an operating agreement between the two of you that delineates? So it was very difficult. And it just was like, they just grew the business. They didn't pay attention to any of the structure and the governance. Like you said, you made the issue, the comment about keeping to your lane. That has to do with knowing like what you do and what the other people do and how you all fit together. Not like, okay, I run the company here, you do this. Probably the other brother feels slighted, so that's why he doesn't do anything,
And that's the open communication. I think I brought, we were talking about
honesty, right?
Yeah, you just be able to listen, or here's a situation, how are we going to handle this? Or right. Again, talking through the generation, like you said, having the planning, succession plan. Do you want to, as you're talking, obviously my father and I have had the conversation, he knows as long as I've been here that this is what I want to do. So it's easier than if I'm like, hey, listen, I was still thinking about going back into full-time coaching, like I did 15 years ago. Well, then he would have to make other plans and on and on. But I think that conversation, to me, is so important to be had both ways. Or a son or a daughter going to their father and saying, Dad, this isn't what I want. And I want to go out in the world outside of that. So it's definitely,
it's hard to do sometimes.
It is the hard, and you know what, most of it's probably just the fear of having that conversation is probably worse than having that.
Yeah, you don't want to disappoint your dad, and he'll be, most of the times he won't be disappointed.
No, it's no, and like I said, when I had the opportunity to go back, and again, that could have changed my entire life if I stayed that path. And then this is a different discussion this day of
Right.
these, if I was out, in Wyoming coaching college football. But again,
Yeah,
I
you could,
chose the family business because I didn't want to be all over the country. I have a strong base here. My family's here. You know what I mean? I met my wife, her family's here, and every, we want to, this is what we're, this is what I wanted out of my life. I love this aspect of being in the business and kind of carving out your own future, and making a great place for everybody to be a part of. So I'm excited about that.
yeah,
But
no,
that's why
definitely,
I chose this path.
definitely college football coaching looks glamorous, but
It
you
does.
get fired, you got to move, you're in Wyoming once, then you're in Florida, then you're in Oklahoma, and you're all over the
And your
place.
family, I couldn't imagine not coming home and seeing my daughter every day.
Right. Because you don't want to keep moving them. So,
Yeah. And a lot of guys chase it, and but I could tell you a lot of guys that I've coached with and worked with, they are living in different states than their families right now, and they can't move. And I'm talking pre-COVID times where
right.
it was very difficult, you know, to do. So,
Now they're stuck in a bubble. So that's a good
yeah.
kind of transition. How have you seen everything that we're going through? How has it affected your business, your industry, the things you see in the
Mhm.
construction business with everything that's going on in the world?
So when COVID, when it really, in March and everything, it was scary there for a while. I'm sure, like it was for most companies. And then when the governor made the announcement about what was essential with construction, we kind of stayed pretty steady through that. A lot of outside projects, we were able to finish projects that we are on immediately. So again, if we were digging the foundations, we could finish that. We're in the middle of demolitions. Our guys, we are very fortunate that our work is outside. Our operators are in
Right.
their own equipment. Our laborers were separated. Our
Sure.
truck drivers are in their own, own trucks. As far as following, because I know, like even now, just the governor, put in the new executive order with everything that has to be going on. We've been following that since day one. Just whether it was the protection equipment, whether it was the separation, of our employees, and limiting the interaction, telling
Right.
our clients, listen, here's the cell phone of the operator. Don't go up to call, you can call, and in different
Right.
provisions
Didn't have
we've
to
done.
go up to them.
Yeah, we've seen it. Again, we've been fortunate. We've seen it, and I think it's the diversity of our who we're working for, whether it's environmentalists, builders, and on that we've been able to see a pretty steady stream of work throughout. What we did see the biggest uptick was digging pools.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of residential pools we
Went
dug this year,
nuts.
we probably set a record of all the other
So there's a lot.
74
You work
years.
with pool companies. They don't dig the hole themselves. They do
Well, they
the
used to
install.
a couple of them did dig the holes themselves, but what ended up happening is they'd have their own piece of equipment, they dig it
Yeah. And it's
on,
tied
but
up, right?
it was tied up. The problem was, where they were getting 1 to 2 pools, they were getting 30 pools,
Yeah.
so again, that's where we came in. So they found it
No, it's
advantageous
weird
to
the
get.
way some industries, like you have a restaurant, you're closed, you're not making any money, you're working on Broadway, and then other parts of the industries go up because
Yeah,
people are
if you were
home and they're like, well, we're not going to the public pool now. We got to build our own pool. And the business
so
goes crazy.
if you got yeah so if you were in the pool business going into COVID, going into this, it was unbelievable. So we were able to do that. The other thing, we saw an uptick where people were expanding their backyards. We got calls to, maybe yards were hilly and stuff, and
Right. You got to dig
to
it out
put
before
us
they do the
put
masonry work. Right.
or not even a pool, just to put a flat yard
Yeah.
back there for a
Right.
soccer field for their kids, or everything. So we got those. It was definitely an interesting time. Um, we saw a lot of the commercial, some of the not a lot of it, but some of the commercial work slowed down, and I've seen the pickup in this fourth quarter where um, and I think a lot of that had to do with the again coming out of COVID, coming out of the summer with the election come. I think there's just a lot of things when you look on the commercial end,
Right.
that takes away, but the residential end boomed as far as everybody was there. Garage demolitions. We got a lot of calls for like the 2-car garage
Right.
demolitions, so people could expand their yards. It was
Yeah.
it was any project you could think about. Was the second and third quarter was actually amplified because and it was COVID reasons. Because if you're out work, if everybody's out working, you're not getting to the projects. But when
Right.
everybody's
That's the
working from
thing.
home,
Right.
you're looking at the
You're like,
backyard,
oh,
say work.
shit. I don't like this. No,
What
it's
can I,
true.
what, even like we've done a lot of pool removals for the years. People, old pools where people are pulling them out just to expand their backyards again. You know, we've seen like with the pool removals, kids are out of the house, or the cost of just doing, the cost of the pool in the backyard, and or a couple that has a younger kid and they're just terrified of the pool and just want a backyard for patio. So we've continued to do the pool removals through the
And you
year.
guys didn't have the issue like handymen and contractors and plumbers and electricians that had to go into a house. Like you didn't
No,
have that issue. People could keep a distance. You work out in the backyard. If it's a long-term job, I guess you could bring an outhouse onto the
we
property or
have to,
whatever, right?
long-term jobs, you have to have the outhouses
Yeah,
out on
because
the
you can't
job,
go
but
into the house. Yeah, but
yeah,
I
no,
knew
it worked.
I knew people wanted you to come in, but they didn't want you to come in. Like they needed stuff done, but they're like, well,
Yeah.
and it's difficult, but you guys didn't have it. You're all outdoors, so that worked out well.
No, but yeah, a lot of the trades people I know that the electricians, plumbers were making sure people were out of the house when they're working or masks or different. It was right. It's we were fortunate again being the outside. Weather is our biggest nemesis.
Right.
Because of again the equipment and the rain and the mud and
But
everything.
COVID
So
started right into the good weather. So,
yeah, COVID
know,
started into good weather. Even now, it's actually scary
still been
because
mild, right?
it's still been mild, but with COVID coming back up, the same thing. We are making sure. Again, we talked about safety and concern. Well, it goes for our guys. It goes for our customer base too. We have our COVID policies that they understand how we're handling everything. And again, everybody, they can call our office, call our operators. Again, you
Sure.
don't have to have that person. You try and keep everybody. You do the best you can to keep everybody
Nope.
safe.
Safe, of course. And for those people listening, this is going to come out in a couple of months. So it's like middle of November right now, 2020. So we are in the early
Yeah.
stages of the next wave, I guess.
Well, I hope when people listen to this, we're looking back and this was,
Yeah, and it's
I
over.
really, because no one's going to forget it. I'll tell you that. But hopefully, if it comes out in a couple of months, they've moved towards a vaccine. And
Yeah,
I feel for the restaurants and the small businesses
they
and
can't take this
and
anymore. I mean, it's
the main
killing them.
street shops that
Yeah,
and that are dependent of people being out and going through. And I know my wife Diana and I do the best we can to support the local businesses. In order from your restaurants, going in and out of shop, you do the best you can, because you can only imagine, what a lot of these companies are dealing with right now. It's a tough enough environment when everything is in your favor,
right.
to survive as a
Yeah,
business.
they're very thin
We're,
margin type of businesses.
yeah, a lot of the ones, and that's why, and even on our end, like I say, we're fortunate, we're busy right now, we have scheduled, but again, you look, hey, if there is a shutdown, if there is a lockdown, do we, make sure you have, what's the necessity, right?
Right.
To keep your reserve. You don't know it, and they could shut down construction at any time. They could shut
Of
down. So
course.
you don't know where it's going to be. So again, you do the best you have with the information that you have in hand. But again, you think about, you know, where no one knows. And then I think that's the one thing that, you look at, whether it's something like Uber, right? And you think about Uber, and I remember having a conversation with somebody right before the pandemic. It's like, wow, this is unbelievable. Well, until
Nobody wants to get in your car.
till no one wants to get in your car,
Right.
everybody, and again, you think about it, and that's just one example of, a restaurant. This restaurant is always busy until no one's allowed out, or there's a curfew, or there's, again, we're talking
Yeah,
about low margins. Imagine now doing it at 25%,
I know. I'm
you
sure it
know,
wouldn't
you
help
know,
you if your business was down 75%. You had to deal with
You
that for a
couldn't,
long
no.
time.
I mean, because the insurances wouldn't drop 75%,
Right.
and your payroll would drop, but like again, we need the employees to generate, and
Yeah.
on it goes. But everything to keep the lights on in the business, everything to keep yourself insured, absolutely. You're not gonna, the insurance bill is not gonna drop,
Right. Is a lot of your
and
equipment leased? Is that how you do it these days?
now we own,
Oh, you do. So you don't have lease payments necessarily, but
No, we might, we have a couple
we,
notes on the newer equipment.
right.
But one of the things we've had equipment we take care of it. We buy good products and make sure we're on top of our maintenance and everything, because
Sure.
it's our biggest, outside of, our employees, the next biggest asset that we have is our equipment, our tool, our toolbox that we
Right.
show up to the job with.
Of course. All right. Well, I'm sure we could talk for hours about business, and because I love the construction business, but I appreciate you taking an hour out of your day. I'm sure you're busy to come on here and to share your thoughts and everything. And, let's definitely stay in touch.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it was, you know, it was really, really enjoyed the experience. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dennis.